In a violent nature, spoiler discussion. If you haven't seen it, get lost. Or if you haven't seen it and you just want to know, stick around. It's up to you. So, wow. I guess obviously the main thing anyone's going to want to talk about when it comes to this film is the yoga kill. We got a girl who's doing yoga, and holy shit. It almost kind of reminds me a bit. This is why I compared it to Hatchet. We have in the fourth Hatchet film, Victor Crowley, there's the cell phone thing where it's like upper ass and all of that stuff. This felt like somebody who's getting their head pulled through, like up their ass and out, but it's, of course, through their stomach.
Yeah.
But that kill is just so insane, so visceral, so hilarious and violent, and just everything you want in a kill. This is like what we're always talking about. Like, please show it to me. Make it brutal. Go all in. Be creative. Have fun. Make it memorable.
Yeah.
And that is this kill. If nothing else, if you hate this film, nothing else, if you have no interest in seeing this movie because you think it sounds boring or whatever, at least for the love of God, if you are a slasher fan who loves gory graphic kills, you have to find this kill online. You have to watch this if nothing else. This kill is legendary. It's one of the best kills I've seen in a slasher in my life. It is fucking insane.
I love that it, like, you think, like, once he puts his hand through her body, you're like, oh, that's
He's
it.
just gonna, like,
that's
kick her
the
off
kill.
the cliff, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, wait, and then he, like, puts the thing in her head, like, starts pulling her neck down, and her neck snap, and you're like, oh, okay. And then he starts pulling
you
it
get,
through,
like,
like,
the
it just
bones,
gets...
like, protruding from her neck as it snaps in.
It just, like, gets increasingly more and more, like, intense, and that was great. And I obviously love that it's, like, she's stretching and doing yoga, and he, like...
Well, yeah, that's the joke, right? Is
her.
that,
yeah,
like, she tells the girl, like, the potential girlfriend who wants her, like, I'm going to go stretch, and then you can come stretch me some more.
Yeah.
And it's like she's saying it to him, right? Even though I think he's underwater at that point, so I don't even think he could hear her, but regardless, it doesn't matter. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't remember if he's underwater at that point or not. Doesn't really matter, but that's the joke, right? It's like... come stretch me a little more. And he's like, okay, let's see how much you can stretch.
I didn't say this in our spoiler free, but aside from, I think maybe like 2 scenes really, most of the dialogue that we get, like, I love that it's from his perspective, and it is kind of like, they're just not the focus, even though we can hear very clearly what's being said. I think the 2 scenes that we get where it is like focus on the victims is when they're giving the exposition around the campfire, and then at the very end when we have our final girl being rescued and he's not there. But everything else I think we hear kind of like from a distance, like his perspective, which I really loved. I thought that was really cool. And I did mention in our spoiler-free discussion that I love the look of the killer, because I love that we get to see him unmasked and masked.
Yeah, I thought for a second we weren't going to see him without his mask.
I thought so, too.
Come on, guys, show it to us.
But I'm really happy. I love how he looks. I love that he's like a zombie, like, and that they're, like, he's definitely supernatural. Obviously, he gets shot multiple times and just comes back. And,
when I saw his eyes, I thought for a second he was blind, but he's not.
No, it's just like dead eyes.
Dead eyes, yeah.
But I loved it. I actually really love the scene that we get of him when he grabs the car keys and they have like a little toy car on it.
Like a boy.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. I thought that was actually great because like that's one of the things I always think about with Jason Voorhees, for example, is that like he would be kind of like stuck in his boyhood probably. Yeah. And I love that we see him like have that like kind of playful childish moment, but then I think that the asshole boyfriend says something about like their friend being like raped by his dad or something, and that like triggers Johnny, right? And he crushes the car. So I also liked that kind of thing because I'm like, okay, did that like just break him out of his like little childlike revelry, or was there something that happened to him when he was a kid? Yeah, like with these guys that, I don't know. I thought that was really cool, though. I liked all of that stuff. And I also really liked his logger, like, fireman, whatever. hood.
Fireman mask. Yeah, I mean, as we had talked about in the spoiler-free thing, it's like, this is paper thin as it gets, right? We have a campfire tale of, some spook tale that's in the area, anecdotal, evidence of like, oh, my dad told me this story that he heard from 5 other people. It's like been diluted and changed, and who knows what's real. And, which is fine. I mean, that's just how those tales go. And you have to always take it with a grain of salt, right? It's like part of it. And even when they ask him, like, if it's, I think somewhere in there, it's like, is it true? And it's like, some of it. It's like, and that's just it. You're never going to know. And I mean, does it really matter at the end of the day? It's just fun to speculate, to take your pieces of it and you apply it where it feels like it fits. You hear this part of it and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm like, obviously he's looking for the necklace.
Right.
Right. That's the thing that gets him to go away. She leaves the necklace on the gas can and you think she's going to get it. And, there's certain things in the movie that drag on. Maybe a little too long for my tastes. It's supposed to ramp up the tension. I had a feeling, I had wondered if this was like his mom that picked her up at the end. But her like long speech, that's supposed to ramp tension, right? The problem with it is that the replayability drastically reduces when you draw scenes out that much and it comes to nothing. Right. So it's like maybe a one-time viewing of it, you're waiting to see like, oh shit, like, is he gonna like, is she the killer? Right? Is she part of it? Is it the mom? Is she gonna like reveal some big truth that's gonna change things? Is, he gonna walk out on the road or like be in the woods as they're driving by? You're kind of like really focusing in on the scene. And then when she like stops the car and she's like, no, what are you doing? And you thought she passed out or maybe even died. And then she walks around and she's like, I'm going to put this tourniquet on you basically. And she's just like, no, we got to go. And she's like, no, you got to hold on. And she's like looking out in the woods. And there's this tension of like, is he out there? Is he out there? Is he out there? And it keeps looping itself over and over. And that one time watch, it's like, okay, I want to know what happens. But on a second viewing, it's going to be like nothing to me. Because it really doesn't amount to much of anything. And it's like 10 minutes that feels kind of tacked on. So it like in a one-time watch, it feels like it has a point because it adds to the tension. But the second viewing is going to just be more boring to me. It was already pushing the boundaries of boring to me because of how long it went on and because it became nothing. And at that point, I was just like, nah, they're not going to do anything. And then when it wasn't anything, I was like, yeah, okay. And then, as I said, when I think about that now, when I think about rewatchability of these types of movies, I think that's a scene that's going to be like, I feel like you're going to get to that scene on a rewatch and be like, like, let's shut it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think I agree, though. I liked that scene because I like the dialogue from the woman who like rescues her, talking about her brother, I think, or whoever, some relative that
Somebody
was
getting
attacked by a bear.
Yeah.
But it like is probably the killer that was attacking him. So
You think so?
I do.
Yeah.
She said it was 30 years ago.
I don't think that timeline
Maybe the timeline doesn't add up.
Yeah.
I like that it can be interpreted like that. Like it could have been the killer because he doesn't see the bear that attacks him. He just sees like these deer carcasses and then he's like, facing away and something is grabbing him and like shoving him down into the water. So either way, I like that it's maybe the killer or that it is just like a bear or an animal that's attacking him because I think that
metaphor for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It sets up that symbolism of him as an animal or like a force of nature. And so I really like that. And I also like the tension building of like thinking that she's going to pass out. And when she's staring out into the woods, I like this implication that like, because the lady keeps telling her like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Like you didn't lose anything. And it's like, she lost literally all of her friends. She lost a part of herself in there. And now she's never going to be able to like look into the woods without thinking about this. about him. So, but I know what you're saying about, like, maybe the tension won't feel the same for, like, second time or multiple watches, and you're probably right with that, but I still really like the ending. I'm also kind of curious if there was, like, a post-credit scene that we missed, because I don't know, maybe there was and we missed something. Hopefully not, though, but I like how it ends. I like that it technically could have, like, sequels, although I don't know if it needs to have sequels, but I like that that's kind of an open-ended, like, you know, he's still out there. Sure. And
don't take the necklace.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
I think another reason why that scene doesn't really play very well for me and is a problem with the film, but once again, this is not the point of the movie, and so this is, like, kind of the I don't know. So when it comes to the characters in the movie, there's like zero character development to them. So, like, when we are following this girl, she just runs off with him, right? So, like, she comes back on the bike. She's talking. So we get a little bit, like a little tiny bit, where she, like, wants him to propose to her or something. And then there's some kind of tension between some guy she brought along with them or something. And then most of the characters are annoying as fuck. Like, the kids that are sitting outside and they're like, you're going to go hang out them gas station girls? And, oh, please fill me up, fill me up, fill me up. I was like, oh, God, kill these fucking idiots. So that goes on and goes on and goes on. But, like, when they come back on the motors or on the four-wheeler, they have a little bit of dialogue of just like, oh, we gotta go, there's killing, and then they get on, and then the forest ranger comes, which of course they have to have, like, the nemesis who has a history, a lineage to this is all just like trope after trope, right? It's the forest ranger who's like, I've killed you before, I could kill you again, and then of course makes the dumbest decisions imaginable, and you're just waiting for them to get killed. And it's just like, okay, we're gonna, he says the things and she's sitting there, and then they run off. And then the one scene that did kind of play as funny to me is, and I don't know if it was intended, but I don't see how you could take it any other way but funny, is when they're, like, hiding in the woods and they're, like, being so loud and he's just standing there listening to them, and they're, like, announcing their plan out loud. Yeah. And then he runs out, and then he, like, behind him, he's like, hey, motherfucker, and he just... Yeah. And then the amount of times that he just beats this guy over the head, it's hilarious. I mean, I don't see how that isn't played for laughs, because
I guess
he just smashes into this guy's head 200 times. I mean, and okay, here's a question, but before I get on to the question, really quick, that's really it. It's just her saying that, then her putting down the necklace, and then running off and getting that girl's car. So I don't really give a shit. I don't really care, right? I don't care about her. But once again, I think that's the point. These are supposed to be paper-thin characters, and that's what they're going for. But the question is that when she was running from him, and when she got free and he was, like, hacking his body up, it felt like she kept circling, and she kept hearing him smashing the guy's head. So it would be like smashing his head, then silence as she ran. Then it would be smashing his head, then silence as she ran. Smashing the head, silence as she ran. It happened like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Now, I was either trying to read that as she's running in circles, and she keeps coming back, and he's still smashing away. Or she's playing the sound of him smashing rhythmically in her head because she can't get it out of her head, and she keeps trying to, like, run away from it. But the more she runs, eventually it catches up to her, and she just continues to keep hearing him smash that guy's head in, even though it's like a mile back at this point. I couldn't tell which one it was, but I kept hearing him smashing the guy's head in with the axe, like, every 20 or 30 seconds. She would, like, come back to a place where it sounded like he was smashing the guy's head in. And I was like, is that just playing in her head, or is she circling?
I took it as it's playing in her head. And she's just kind of having trouble getting it out of her thoughts. Yeah, I think, I don't know, the characters themselves, like what you were saying, I don't think we're supposed to make a connection with them in the same way that we would in a movie where we're
following
the victims.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that that's done really well. I think that we already put like the connections that we want to have on them because of tropes from other slasher movies, and like she's the final girl, so we want her to survive, but we don't know a lot about her aside from what the killer hears in like bits and pieces of conversation, and like, you know, this moment where we see her kind of like looking out the window forlornly or whatever, and we think, you know, that she's different than the others because she's thinking and not being like a little jerk or whatever. But I really liked that. I thought that was done really well. Like, I just think that the whole film is done pretty perfectly in terms of like a slasher movie from the killer's perspective. So I don't really want anything different there because I don't think it needs to be. I don't think we need really rich victims in order for the movie to work the way it does.
Do you think it would have hurt the film to have a little bit more depth to the characters?
It would depend on how it was done. I think if there's a way to do it where you're still keeping that distance and only kind of like gleaning information from the killer's perspective, sure, like if you wanted to put more in there, but I kind of like the way it is now because it's sort of neutral. Like, you don't really want the killer to kill anybody, but like, I don't feel like you feel strongly about anyone to have these like, oh no, I don't want them to die, like they're the cute one, or they're the like the really sweet friend or whatever. Like, you're kind of just, again, watching like an animal or like a hurricane or something just sort of sweep through.
Yeah.
You know, with some bits of emotion sort of thrown in, but that's also done really well because it's like he's processing things that he is like trapped, like he's like he can't get through. You know? Like, there's bits of emotion in there, but not so much where it's like a hyper-personal kill. You know, you get the sense that it's very impersonal to him. Like, the people, it's impersonal to. Like, it's maybe whatever he might, like, think in an instant about whatever. Like, it reminds him of something, and so then he acts on it, like the necklace in the beginning, right? So, but I really loved all that.
There is one obvious missing aspect of a slasher film here that I thought for sure we were going to get, but we did not go down that road at all. And there was multiple instances where it would make sense, and I was 100% sure we were getting it, which was nudity. Yeah. I was like, the skinny dipping scene, potentially, and she was going to get her to jump in without her clothes on, or like when he goes up to the window and the girl's like getting her, you know, taking her shirt off and all that. I was like, okay, you know, because that's part of the slasher films, is kind of the gratuitous violence and the gratuitous nudity. So I was pretty surprised to not see any in here. Tad disappointed, of course, for my own taste, but not 100% necessary by any means. As far as the kills go, as I said, I just would have liked to have seen a little more, like the one gnarly kill. If we got like 2 or 3 kills like that were super memorable. I would say, I guess, that the head smashing over and over and over, it's not something I haven't seen before. I've definitely seen it done, not a lot, but here and there, where the killer just keeps bashing someone's head in relentlessly. You know, a Hatchet movie does that for sure. But there is one interesting thing that happens towards the beginning of the film that I thought was going to happen more throughout. And it's just a one-off, and I'm actually kind of surprised we did not see it again, because it felt like it was going to be a storytelling device. And that was when the killer walks into the house and sees this flashback in a mirror.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so we're going to tell the story this way. We're going to see it through his perspective and his flashbacks through things he's attached to.
Yeah.
You know, he sees like his dad or something, and he's talking about his mom, and I'm assuming this is his like childhood home that he's returned to see if this is the necklace, and it's not. And he keeps getting these like false necklaces.
Yeah.
Or at least like misled on where the necklace is. Right? We get the kind of the little bit of backstory of like, you know, this is his mom's necklace or whatever. But I definitely was like, oh, okay, we're going to do like the flashback through the mirror thing. And it just never came back. And I kind of found that pretty surprising, honestly, because it was introduced and then it was just done away with. And that's fine. I mean, it's not a complaint, just more of a surprise. Like, oh, they did that and then never again. It kind of felt like the scenes in Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, where she's like, Rennie is seeing Jason's kid self in the mirrors.
That, like, wavy, like blurry,
dreamish.
Yeah,
quality to it.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think though the reason we only get the one is because that's like the necklace being removed from the fire tower is literally what wakes him up. So it's like that's the only thing that's really relevant. But it would have been interesting to see other like items that maybe trigger some memory. But it's cool though that he's like a zombie. I don't know. I really like his like weird like half consciousness.
I would have liked to have seen like after he killed someone, they would have like come to life, like animated their corpse, in no matter how fucked up they were. And they like told more parts of his story to him. Like they were like his father talking to him through the bodies.
That would have been crazy.
Like where he's like the guy's fucking head is completely cut off. And then it's like sitting there and it's like talking, but like the head's back here and it's like talking, stuff like almost like, the Canadians in South Park or something. If you could have had something like that where he was hallucinating memories through the bodies, that would have been cool, just to kind of get a little bit more bits of character development for our killer, since he is our main character, right? So that's what that did for that mirror scene and for the campfire scene, right? Those are his, and then of course the like park ranger or whatever, like those are his character moments. As also in addition to that, obviously him like playing with the car, like you said, that gives him a character moment. And if we could have just got a little bit more of that, a little bit more of like him being a character, that would have helped the film. But once again, I think this is the film that the director wanted to make. I don't think he wants to do anything that I'm talking about. This is my own personal preference and how I would have personally done it had I been given a movie like this. I think this will be in a few people's number one spot of the year. This will really, really work for a certain group of slasher fans. Like, they're gonna love this shit. People who want kind of like an art house approach to a slasher film. Like, it's not super artsy. It's just art house in the sense of like, it's very, very reserved. It's super slow and it really takes its time. And I mean, I just know that this is going to bore the shit out of probably half the slasher fans who watch this, and they're just going to be like, oh my God, if it ain't the kills, everything else can go, right? And there's not enough kills to justify walking around. So I just know that's what's going to happen. And then the people who aren't slasher fans, like if you don't like slasher movies and you went to see this, oh my God.
Or maybe,
this would be
I don't know, maybe you
terrible.
would like it because it's not anything like a standard, like typical slasher. So
You're
maybe
right.
you would be like into it.
There will be a small portion of people who are like, I don't typically like slashers, but this was more my style because it wasn't so this or that. I think that will be an even smaller percentage, but this is definitely going to be a split film. This is going to be a split film for sure. A lot of people are going to be hating on this one, saying it's boring as shit. But you liked it more than I did, just because I'm always letting my own personal desires for what I would do myself get in the way, but I don't let it get in the way too much. I think a lot of people let that get in the way way too much, and they don't enjoy their experience. I enjoyed it. I just see what I think are missed opportunities that would have made this better. And, there's certain films where we watch it and I'm like, this is exactly how I would have done it. This was rad. So I think it's impossible to completely remove yourself from your viewing experience. Like, I'm me and I have tastes, like my own tastes, and they're always going to be prevalent when I watch a film. It's literally impossible to disconnect yourself from your own tastes. Like, this is who I am, right? And this is what I would have liked to have seen. For this film to just have a little bit more of a punch to stand out and be a little more unique. But as it is, it's one of the most unique films of the year. Probably the most unique slasher I've seen in years. Has the best kill of the year thus far. I would love to see it topped, but I don't. I feel like Terrifier is going to be the film that has the best chance of topping it.
Yeah.
Because of course that's like the whole gimmick of Terrifier is to and after the kill in Terrifier 2, obviously Damien's going to want to up his game even more, and he's going to want to make something even more insane. But will it top this? We'll see. But yeah, it's cool, and I look forward to seeing some cosplay at cons in the future with this killer.
Yeah.
This is going to be a hit with the cons and people who got that big body and they want to walk around. They want a new Jason.
Yes.
You know, something. It's like, every fucking convention you go to, there's like 47 Michaels, 25, 30 Jasons.
Yeah.
Right? We need better people. We're starting to get more Art the Clowns. Right? There's just not enough slasher villains and iconic horror costumes. And I think there won't be a ton of these, but it will be very cool.
Yes.
To see what was his name again?
Johnny.
Johnny. Johnny from In a Violent Nature costume in the future. Yeah. So I look forward to that. As far as the kills go, there is the opening kill with the guy who's pissed off, the number one motherfucker, and he gets his arm cut off. It's put up on top of the car, and his face is smashed in. We can kind of see it. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the full Monty with that one. The girl being drowned, I don't know. It's aesthetically kind of cool, right? It's like the quick scream and then just silence and nature. Like, that's what you like, is the nature aspect of things. And so just kind of like the gasp for air and then just took under, and then she kind of floats up. It's been done 1,000 times. So it's not really all that interesting, but it adds to that. And then there's the head chopped off. I liked that with the guy being carried around. He's just holding his head, and when he throws it through the freaking window, and it's like laying on the ground, and like it's perfectly lit and looking at the camera, basically. That was funny. And then he smashes the guy's body through the window and all that stuff, and smashes the guy's body up against the thing to get the mask. So all of that with his kill was memorable and pretty cool. The throwing the freaking blade at the guy and then pulling out of his head, and then the other guy. How'd the other guy die?
He had a rock.
Oh yeah, he smashed his head. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good, and that was a one take. Like, we did not cut. There was no cutaway on that. So really cool. Mm-hmm. And then of course there is the log cutter. Mm-hmm. That went on a little too long. He paralyzed him, which kind of took away some of the agony of it, because he kind of just didn't really get to emote or express all that much. But they did do a good job of, once again, another non-cutaway of when he puts his head up there and it snaps it off and he's like blinking and whatever as it's happening. So that was pretty gnarly. I don't feel like he needed to put his arm up there. I
liked it because I think that's like the one kill that he stages. Yes, and it's because he's like, he does remember that this is the guy that put him in the ground again. So I did like that he kind of is taking his time with it. And
I was nervous that he was going to do like each limb, and it was going to take like 15 minutes. And I didn't please don't do his leg and then his other leg. Please don't do this. It's going to take way too long.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen.
I actually was hoping he was going to put him up on the thing, like from like here up, right? And that we were going to see it come through his chest and snap his, that would have been fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
And then watch that whole part, and even through the arm, through the chest, and his whole body, like, comes apart. But it's, it's just at the neck, which is, we've seen plenty of before. And And then, of course, there's just the guy getting his head caved in and then just smashing into it. I mean, literally, like, if you count the amount of times she heard it after, it's got to be in the, like, 200s. It's the amount of times that he hit this guy. But just like what we see, we see at least 25 to 30, stabbings or smashings into the guy's head. So, yeah, I mean, and I think we already mentioned the main kill.
Right.
I think that's all the kills. So, yeah, some very memorable kills. If nothing else, the movie's got some great kills.
Yes, for sure.
All right. I think that's it. Anything more?
No, that's all.
All right. In a Violent Nature. What'd you guys think? What was I can't imagine someone was like, "Oh, I liked this kill more." I would think we'd all agree that this is the best kill of the movie, but hey, what was your favorite kill of the movie? Was it not the yoga girl? Definitely mine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just iconic at this point for me, even though it's only been like an hour. It's amazing. All right. So anyway, we'll see you in the comments. Let us know what you thought about the film, what your favorite aspects were, what you didn't like, who you agree with more here, and we'll see you in the comments. All right, guys. Bye.